Welcome to SVG-TV's news for Wednesday, April 6, 2016. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The quest to eradicate hunger in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is both noble and ambitious. That's according to Minister of Sustainable Development and Economic Planning, Camilo Gonzalez, at the launch of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund earlier today. Minister Gonzalez stated that his government had made tremendous strides in relation to the reduction of hunger and poverty here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He further noted that the existence of persons who suffer from hunger in any society creates not only moral challenges but also economic and developmental issues, and his government has continued to implement policies geared towards reducing poverty and malnutrition in SVG.
There have been policies set at the level of the government on education, on housing, on social development, on assistance to the poor that have done a great deal in reducing poverty to date. But what we have found is that there remains in the country a small and up to now intractable segment of the population that remains very poor, and indeed their nutrition and health is vulnerable. What the government has decided to do now is to take the recent international commitments to reducing hunger, reducing malnutrition, reducing vulnerability, and ratchet it up a level.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, Derry Williams, stated that he is grateful for the opportunity to serve St. Vincent and the Grenadines in such a capacity and will use the opportunity to make a positive contribution to the development of the country. Williams says the board is looking forward to working with the private, public, cooperative, as well as other key stakeholders in achieving the goal of zero hunger in SVG.
I must thank the government and in particular the Prime Minister for such consideration. I must also note that the fund is well placed to have such esteemed members on the board, as well as a most efficient and committed director, General Anthony Brown. I look forward to working with this team of professionals to fulfill the mandate of the fund. Our task, while challenging, is very attainable. We must, however, set out to work assiduously with great purpose and to execute with equal alacrity. This we must do with the ultimate goal of positively impacting the lives of the intended beneficiaries of the fund, those in our communities that are in need, with the single aim of achieving zero hunger in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Also making remarks was Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who expressed confidence in the board in achieving its mandate and pointed out that the trust fund forms part of a multi-pronged approach attaining the ambitious goal of eradicating hunger in SVG.
Now, you will see the composition of the board from different ministries, that the fight has to be across several different ministries. The coordinating ministry is the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Economic Planning and Sustainable Development, for the obvious reason that the Sustainable Development Goals, number one of the SDGs, which we signed on to in September last year at the United Nations, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. SDG number one is precisely what we're dealing with here, to have zero hunger by 2030. But we think we can manage that in our circumstances by 2020. At least let's have ourselves an ambitious goal now.
In other news, Macmillan Education earlier today hosted a sales conference here, and Senior Education Officer Aldia Gums-Dyer says that this signifies that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is being recognized for the noteworthy strides made in education. Addressing the gathering of publishers, editors, writers, and individuals involved in creating and selecting books for the education system across the region at the Beachcombers Hotel, Gums-Dyer says that the Ministry of Education and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are always delighted to be chosen to host such events, adding that it is a clear indication that the country is no longer recognized only for its beauty and splendor, but more so for the advancements made in education and the potential that can be seen with this country's human resource to take the business of education to the highest level.
Thank you for this vote of confidence. I wish to thank you, Macmillan, for your hand of fellowship that you have extended and that has now blossomed into a strong and healthy partnership. As a major provider of resources for our students, it is critical that we continue to collaborate and to cooperate to ensure that we are meeting the changing needs of the new generations that we are entrusted to equip to manage ensuing ages.
Gamsdaya further thanked Macmillan for the various support providing in advancing and uplifting the education system of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She noted that Caribbean students in colonial days were subjected to British teaching and learning resources and assessment in contradiction with their own island experiences.
Indeed, we have both come a long way. Not only have we moved past the content, but your constant interaction clearly demonstrates your willingness to rethink and to innovatively develop new materials that support more students in coping with the ever-changing realities that are arising. Macmillan Publishers has supported us in various ways, from the hosting of professional development for our teachers to facilitating sessions for our students. We trust that your presence here will serve to motivate more of our people, however, to become creators and producers of these very resources.
Managing Director of the school's Macmillan Education Program, Emma Boy, says Macmillan is using the event as a means of building a partnership with the stakeholders of education throughout the region. She adds the response and feedback of persons attending today's event will be put together for the next few years in planning workshops, as well as the type of support that they need to provide, particularly to the ministries of education when they choose Macmillan books, since it is essential to ensure that teachers receive the right level of support training.
Maths and science isn't the main focus, it's just one of our key strengths as a company. So we work across all of the curriculum areas, particularly here in the Caribbean. So some of the best-selling titles that we have and work with are around maths, science, English, integrated science, and of course I really should mention our very key title that is launched last year and is doing tremendously well and is a really important title here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some of your teachers have been authors. We have one of the ladies in the room, and so it's terrific to have her here, and that is Health and Family Life, which is a really important title for us because it addresses those topics that can be really sensitive and hard to approach. So it gives teachers a really strong framework in which to introduce those difficult subjects, and it also gives the students a really safe framework in which to discuss and explore those areas.
With the passing of the Governors General's Emoluments and Pension Amendment Bill 2016, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, told Parliament yesterday that the increase for the head of state from $2,000 to $4,000 is necessary. He said that Government House, which is used for state events, will be undergoing repairs and that it is unfair for the Governor General to use his own house to host events.
Is now being used as an office and occasionally for social functions. And the Governor General has been using his own home, if fully furnished. If we had to rent that home, it would be way in excess of $4,000 a month. I should point out the Governor General did not ask that this be increased, but truth, Mr. Speaker, I was not aware that the sum put aside for the housing was, I knew of it, but somehow it slipped my consciousness. And when I directed my mind to it, it's just not fair.
Dr. Gonzalez further emphasized that it is necessary to ensure that the Governor General be afforded the appropriate amenities that is fitting for his status.
Even though he was not complaining, for him to be paid a housing of $2,000 a month. Mr. Speaker, as you know, we are responsible for housing judges. And judges are being paid to live in houses. I can assure you, in a private residence, you don't get a house of that sum for a judge to live in. And in fact, when I say this, ambassadors may well be saying, ambassadors represented here, may well be saying, wow, they're only giving the Governor General $2,000 a month.
Barrister at law Graham Ballers is requesting that the New Democratic Party candidate for Central Leeward, Benjamin Exeter, display a greater sense of tolerance. This statement by Ballers comes as he has written to lawyer for Exeter, Israel Bruce, in a letter dated Monday, April 4th, 2016, informing Bruce that he will be representing radio announcer Dwight Bing Joseph in a legal case that was brought against him. The issue surrounds alleged defamatory statements made by Joseph on February 18, 2016, as a radio announcer, where he reportedly accused Exeter, the NDP candidate for Central Leeward, of having 50 rounds of ammunition on him. Attorney Israel Bruce wrote to Joseph on March 21, 2016, informing him that he is seeking an apology and compensatory damages for his client amounting to $250,000. The argument in the case is that Exeter was made out to be a person intended on committing a criminal offense. Ballers, in his letter to Bruce, stated that his client, Dwight Bing Joseph, denied the words uttered as slanderous, and that while the amount of ammunition was false, it was not defamatory. Ballers claims Exeter had on him 20 rounds of ammunition and not 50, as was reportedly stated by Joseph, and this was just a mere numerical dispute as to the number of bullets Exeter had in his possession at the time. Ballers further explained that this does not constitute a defamatory statement and that ordinary and natural meaning of the words used do not impute an allegation of criminality against Exeter. Ballers, in his letter to Bruce, concluded that the NDP candidate for Central Leeward lays himself open to close scrutiny of his every word and deed and must display a greater sense of tolerance. He said that Joseph cannot accede to his request of $250,000 because he did not slander his client, and remarked that the NDP candidate will not survive for long in the political trenches if he cannot handle criticisms. When SVG-TV News contacted attorney Israel Bruce on the matter, he refrained from making any detailed comments. He, however, acknowledged receiving the letter from Ballers and that he has yet to extract the critical elements to response. He said after he has done so, he will provide an appropriate response. And the leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, Anim Eustace, has made a call for a speedy, efficient and professional conclusion into the investigation of a reported attempt made to firebomb the party's headquarters at Maurice Road. In a statement made last night on the radio, the NDP president explained that 3 different entrances to the building were firebombed.
All staff discovered broken fragments of glass, as well as burnt out bottle tops from vanilla essence bottles,
And we were very concerned on seeing that this morning. From the appearances, all appearances, attempts were made at starting a fire at 3 different doorways in the building. On discovery of the worrying evidence, our executive members and the police were immediately notified. The police came and have conducted their investigations and are continuing their investigations. We await the conduct of this process and look forward to a speedy, efficient and professional conclusion that will lead to arrests in this matter.
Noting that he does not like what happened, Yusuf says it might be significant or mere coincidental that the attempt to firebomb their building came around the time of the judgment of the election petitions, among other matters.
That the attempt apparently took place between the hours following the court ruling on the election petitions, and our declaration to continue forward with our challenge to the result of the last elections. During public comments on Tuesday, I made reference to newly discovered information that could significantly affect the case, and that the party was preparing documentation in that regard. In this era of heightened political tension, I call on all, including our friends and supporters, to be eternally vigilant. We take this matter extremely seriously and follow it to its conclusion. We do not like what has happened.
The members of the traffic branch of the local constabulary have been highly commended by Chief Magistrate Ration Brown for carrying out their duties expeditiously. Her commendation came on Monday, April 4, 2016, while she was presiding over traffic-related offences. She said in recent times the police have been working extra hours to ensure that persons who violate the traffic laws with regards to driving without licenses, in particularly brought before the court on a timely manner. Magistrate Brown also pointed to the fact that the officers went the extra miles in the wee hours of the morning to ensure that this was done. In recent times, several persons were dragged before the court for the offences, which they were fined accordingly. The magistrate told the court that the officers should be rewarded for their hard work and called on the relevant authorities to do so. Making a call for teachers to deepen their understanding of the challenges they face. Featured speaker at the 19th Biannual Convention of the SVG Teachers Union, Dr. Tennyson Joseph, noted that he himself is concerned about the condition of the trade union movement within the Caribbean. He told the audience at the French's House yesterday that as trade unionists, the members of the SVG-TU must be reminded why they joined the movement and work towards upkeeping the standards of the union.
To Mr. President, that you too and your team have concerns of your own, since the tone of your theme hints that you are making appeals for loyalty and commitment. You are only making appeals for loyalty and commitment because you are perhaps sensing slippage and backsliding among your membership. I sense from your theme an underlying worry that trade unionism is under threat, and this explains why you are promising a gateway to the future. The economic crisis is impacting directly on our class interests as workers and on your specific interests as a teachers' union. We as trade unionists need to constantly remind ourselves that our policy choices are deeply ideological and class issues. We do a tremendous disservice to ourselves when we abandon our class perspective, when we forget why we are trade unionists in the first place, and when we buy into the propaganda of our enemies about the end of trade unionism.
Dr. Joseph further called on members of the SVG-TU not to let issues such as politics hinder or divide their movement, noting that a union will only achieve better when the members work together.
We are indeed in the era of political party show. The best advice I can leave to Mr. Wilson and the Graduate Teachers Union is that it should extricate itself and stay above and beyond the politics of party show. You are Caribbean teachers and you are among the better educated cohort of yours. physical education. That's not out as the intellectual leaders of your society. You should not let your union be split by the narrow politics of electoral contestation and deciding a way to write down the middle of your country.
World Health Day will be celebrated tomorrow, April 7, 2016, under the theme Step Up, Beat Diabetes. To commemorate the day, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment will host a diabetes health fair at two venues, the Central Vegetable Market in Kingston and the Chateaubelair playing field beginning at 9 in the morning. Activities will include free blood sugar and blood pressure checks, free foot care screening, nutrition counseling and exercise advice with live demonstration and medication counseling. According to the ministry, the aim of this activity is to raise awareness about the rise in diabetes and its staggering burden and consequences, and to also trigger a set of specific, effective and affordable actions to tackle diabetes control and manage complications. As part of efforts to enhance the early childhood training program, the management and staff of VinSave has partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture to train persons in lettuce cultivation. Expressing her gratitude towards the ministry and other partners, Director of VinSave, Janice Fraser, noted that the project was developed as a means of fostering an appreciation among trainees for growing their own food and how they can further teach their students about it.
All part of the further development of the VinSave training program. We developed this project as a means of helping the students in training, in particular, to have an appreciation for earth, and more so that when they go back to the centers, that they would be able to establish backyard gardens, so that the children would have nutritious meals. In developing the project, we sought assistance from the Ministry of Agriculture to your chief, Mr. Ashley Kane rather, and he was able to send Mr. Tyrone John, who we must certainly give credit to, he and his team of persons from the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. John designed the course, so it's both theoretical and practical aspects of it. So he came and with his other personnel from the ministry and did the lectures with the students in training, and you see the results of the practical part of it.
Fraser says the program will also aid in sustaining the organization as the produce will be used to generate a source of income.
From the VinSave point of view, we see it also as a means of sustainability for the agency, because it wouldn't end here. Basically, we'll continue when this first crop is done to plant our vegetable garden and sell the produce as a means of earning income. In addition to the lettuce, we plant some cucumbers at the back. Those are not ready to be reaped as yet, but those would also be reaped for sale. So it's a combination of a lot of hard work and dedication and commitment from a number of persons. There are the students in training who are not here today, and the staff general of VinSave. And we're here to say thanks for what we have achieved so far, and certainly we'll continue with this project in order for the development of our children. And they're also part of it too, because eventually we'll bring the children to appreciate the garden and to plant stuff and so forth.
Some of the participants shared what they have learned and expressed their appreciation for being a part of the training program.
My name is Sherikaran. On behalf of VinSave, I thank Mr. Tyrone John for his experience with the lettuce and for showing us how to plant lettuce and how to set them. We set them around the middle of February, and the weather was just dried, but every day we would go and wet them in order to keep them alive and well. But then after we transplanted them, we had very good weather. Even up to today, the weather is very good, and we thank God for that.
We're going to harvest things that we never harvest before, like lettuce. So me and Miss Fraser, my co-worker, we get here and we do a little hard work. I got to be in the process to do all the work there at VinSave.